Who is like I don't know, who was first, I'm not sure. That gentleman.
So you were speaking before of casualties of this process. I'm wondering if you could speak to the potential intense actual pain that can be experienced when energy is awakened in the system that may not be prepared for it. Cranial pressures and pains, spinal pain, all of that which is medically and physiologically not detectable.
Well, this process is painful. So, I mean, let's be frank about it. Man, it's painful from the beginning. Yeah, right way through. Who was there last night? Last night this young gentleman brought that quote from Mother Teresa, which I loved very much, where Mother Teresa confessed, and I won't be able to quote word to word, but that pain and that exposure to that pain, to so much pain, when eventually that pain becomes impossible and it turns into love as well. I don't want to go into another dimension now, because I know exactly where your question comes from, I understand. But it is like that. We need to have a right predisposition, right understanding from start, that it's God that moves through us. And it may not be an easy process, but it has to be welcomed. We have no choice but to completely surrender to that process, to be open and trusting. Open and trusting. Surrender to that process completely. In true awakening, we have no choice. No choice is given, because I meet people who are awakened, with no spiritual or religious background, with so-called good jobs, and they're asking me, can you please help me to go back? Because everything was perfect in my life prior to that. I had a good job, and this and that also called good. Now nothing is good in my life, because everything is falling apart, and I don't even, why? Because I'm not even sure if I deserved it. You see, difficult cases, those cases, because at least in the one who kind of eager, like there is this humility already, and awakening is welcomed, and pain is welcomed as a result, because there is understanding that this is a transformation. This transformation is the quality of the pain itself changes. And I don't want to, because I'm not selling anything right now, so if I was selling now a kind of a book or philosophy or something, or like, then it's all glorious all the way through. It's not. However, to what has been just mentioned, we need to be smart as well. We need to know what this process is about. Very often when we are sloppy and disregard and misunderstand how everything is interconnected, we're paying a necessary penalty and suffer more as a result. In my work, I'm very, I came to sharing and teaching through being a pranic healer. When I stopped painting, this is what I did. I didn't want to teach. I'm still not sure if I want to teach, because it's a different perspective. I have a very different perspective on this. And so for me, the most important thing when people privately come, it's like if there are imbalances, if there are some dilemmas and problems, is like immediately, it's like as a doctor, you have this protocol. You examine the being, you know? And sometimes it's even like, what are you eating? You know, what are you nourishing, feeding yourselves with? Are you actually helping to rebuild the light body, or you're sabotaging the process? If you're sabotaging the process, Kundalini doesn't like that stuff, you know? You know, it will do everything to break, you know, it will everything. And also there is another thing, that when there is enough energy, when there is enough momentum, Shakti will always rise given conditions. Always rise. And at first it seems like, oh great, you know, rising. Like my head is, you know, the roof is gone. Lights, everything, you know, like fireworks. But it's not necessarily rising in the right place. So we need to know where, you know, like this is why, traditionally speaking, adepts worked carefully with, you know, they courted. There's actually a term in Tantra, courting the Shakti, courting the queen, you know, so that then when she's awakens, you know, then it's like stands erect inside the spinal column. And then the glory is there. You know, it could be 3 days process, 3 years process. You know, it depends. It could take longer, but that's what I'm trying to say, you see? Sometimes lack of nutrients in the body, because awakening, initial awakening, depletes our system. Literally depletes our system. And I also meet a lot of people who experience that kind of post-awakening depressing state. They fall into depression. Why? Because there is not enough nutrients, and neurotransmitters are being also burned ever so slightly. Does that make sense to you?
It all makes sense. It's a difficult process, and confusing, not knowing, you know, and that sense of sort of what you're like self-blame, like I did not nourish this process properly, and you pay a big price when that's the case. And you know, it's I'd like to think that things are redeemable.
Mm-hmm. It is redeemable, of course. It is redeemable, very much. Because, let's face it, Shakti is supreme intelligence herself. She is the embodiment of intelligence. Intelligence comes forth from that energy. Right? If we don't do obvious silly things, like, you know, like, forgive me for that, then, and if there is this welcoming, this inner celebration, if we allow, after a period of cleansing, which is absolutely necessary, that Shakti is capable of guiding that process. But you see that the danger is that within the, let's say, framework that we are in largely westernized societies today, we have this notion very often that we can do it ourselves, you know. We can always kind of like, you know, I meet a lot of that approach, that guru is within kind of thing, you know. There's this fear, and that sometimes backfires. Because if we seek help and guidance, obviously using discrimination, this is why I said, to all that, we have to be smart. Then we avoid a lot of unnecessary trouble for ourselves in that process. And it is obviously individually tailored, you know, like sometimes a certain rectification, adjustments to diet does marvel. You know, it just really oils the whole process, because you need to oil this body. Because the Shakti, you know, the fire needs oil. Otherwise it starts burning the house down, you know?
That's the thing.
Yeah. There's another categories of which I speak and would like to do more work on with people, is that addressing this importance of the relationship between Ojas, Tejas and Prana. If you have some basic understanding of Ayurveda, you know that Ayurveda deals with doshas, right? But yogic science, tantric science deals with, you know, it takes Ayurveda and utilizes it for different end, for the transformative process. So the Tejas, Ojas and Prana are extremely important. Prana is the subtle essence. Here, what in the context of these three, Prana, it's the subtle essence of air. And Tejas is the subtle essence of fire. And Ojas is a subtle essence of earth and water, right? That which constitutes our body, on the gross and the subtle level. They are byproducts of spiritual refinement. Some of us are kind of like granted with the refinement of that process, but others need to work on it, and the balance need to be maintained. Because as I often give that example, it's like a lump of fire, where Ojas is that oil that sustains the fire, right, of Tejas. But without the air of Prana, you know, so they need to be in equal proportion. And if there is disbalance, too much Tejas, too much, you know, like ardor, too much of that spiritual passion can burn away if there is not enough structure, if there is not enough oil. Do you follow?
Mm-hmm.
See? Likewise, if there is plenty of that, but there is not enough prana, then there is stagnation. So, yes, this process is painful, and pain often accompanies that. Classical accounts of beings, even G.D. Krishnamurti was awakened at a very early age and apparently suffered all his life with headaches, and you know, his spine ached as well very often. Whether he utilized the knowledge that was given within, you know, available within the culture he was born, I don't know. But I know many other very, very well-known figures who also had to, you know, because the greater is the awakening, the greater is the pain as well. There is another side to it, you know, sometimes and at certain stages we take the pain onto ourselves, the pain which is not ours per se, but it is still ours because consciousness is expanding, you cannot help it. Do you see? So this is, you know, narrow is the path, sharp as the laser blade. We have to be vigilant.